session we were going to look at essays and how you formulate these and how they're going to fit into your studies across your programs. I'm going to give you some ideas about planning, structuring, and basically just giving you the kind of key tips to help you with your essay writing skills. So in overview of today's session, we're going to look at what are essays, essay developments, look at essay titles, essay writing, planning, and the key structure of an essay. So first of all, essays, what are they? It's probably one of the most common forms of assessments you're going to kind of experience across your course in a range of different modules. The word is based on a Latin word, which basically means to present a case. It's a piece of continuous prose writing, which is divided into paragraphs, and it will assess your performance on a module. It's where you write about your reading, research in line with what's been designed to answer a question or a question that's been set for you. This type of writing is referred to as discursive writing, which means that it's based on a conclusion or based on research, evidence, argument, not intuitions or assertions. It's fact and evidence-based piece of work. So in looking at essay development, essays can be broken down into the following. So you decide what the essay question is asking you to do. Look at the content or what information has been given to you, and you select and draw information together to answer that question. So in terms of gathering that information together, you're looking at pulling content together from different tools such as books, notes, articles, and then obviously grouping them together effectively to answer that question. When you're going through that process, you probably draft and put your ideas together. This is obviously the editing process, and obviously write the piece of work, and then you tidy up and check and proofread that piece of work before you submit it. So this is the basic format of putting an essay together. We will, through this process and this session, go through in more detail of helpful tips of how to actually plan, put together, structure your essays, in the hope that by the end of today's session, you're really clued up on what's expected of you in an essay. So why do we use essays as a tool of assessment? Well, it's basically around developing a thinking process. It's hoping to increase your understanding and knowledge of the subject, but it's also about organising your thoughts and being able to communicate those to others. Good essays are written and communicated effectively. They are concise and they could have a targeted approach, obviously aiming to answer that question. So the first area we're going to look at in essays is the actual essay title. So essay titles, the wording of the question is there to help you understand what is required. So that's kind of a key, really important point, is actually really looking at that, writing it down, putting it into your own words and actually breaking that down. The title is there to help you decide on how to approach the topic or subject. You're going to be looking for key points or key words to help you decipher what the question is asking you to do. But also, another key important point is actually thinking about the question you've been given and how it fits into the module, the lectures, and the lectures' expectations. So, when we set a question, it will relate to the content that we've covered on that course. It won't be just left field and completely random. Will be topics and things that you've looked at. You need to look at what has been asked for, and generally it's going to focus on description, explanation, and argument. So they're the key components we're going to be looking for you to develop through your essays. Okay, so obviously in terms of looking at essay titles, it's really important, as I've mentioned, to kind of start to look at breaking them down, interpret them. So an essay never asks you to write all you know about a topic. It always tells you how you're supposed to get the answer to the question. So there's some simple methods of actually breaking this down, which we're going to go over now. So the first one we're going to look at is by Burns and Sinfield, which they developed these kind of subheadings for you actually to ask yourself some questions. So instruction, what is the question telling you to do? Is it asking you to assess, discuss, evaluate? It's important you be able to interpret these words. What I'll do after this is actually go through some of the key words that you might see in an essay title and explain what they are. Secondly, you're going to look at the topic. What is the actual essay about? Focus on the key things in terms of the subject matter and actually do some research around that. Focus, once you know what the topic you need to know about, which aspect are you going to focus on? So it might be quite a broad thing like, sports participation or youth football development. Well, there's lots of different components within that area. So you're going to maybe need to focus and narrow down your kind of research into key areas. So this is where some kind of planning and brainstorming needs to take place and possibly some reading around the area. Limitations. A question is never going to ask you to write all you know about that topic. There may be restrictions which will limit your discussion, and this will help you shape your essay. Another technique is called the bug technique, which involves breaking down the question by boxing, underlining, glancing back to check. So you put a box around the action words or instruction words. So as I've kind of already mentioned, these are the kind of explain, analyse, evaluate. The action words tell you what to do and helps you pick out the type of essay that's required. So it might be a compare and contrast, it might be describe, it might be evaluate, it might be critically discuss. So it's making sure you understand what that word means. Then you underline the keywords in the question. This will sort out the content that's expected of you. It's a process that will help you understand the actual question. Once you've done that, then you're going to glance back to check if you've missed out any keywords that are important. So what I've done for you is come up with a little example. Critically evaluate the effectiveness of high-profile sporting events and how they affect on sports participation. So within that essay there, you can see that I've kind of squared off and boxed the kind of type of instructions. Is critically evaluate, so it's a critical evaluation. The keywords, or that you're going to be needing to do some research on, is looking at the effect of high-profile sporting events and how they impact on sports participation. So it's quite a broad subject. So you may then break it down into, youth participation, different sports. So there's lots of different ways that you could then look at that essay. You may look at specific events like the Olympics, football events, whatever it is that's kind of your area of interest to actually answer that question. So using these techniques of breaking down the question can really help you with your planning process, and then which kind of moves on to those brainstorming and planning out your ideas and formulating concept maps to actually gather information to help you structure your essay. So I mentioned I was going to go over some of those key instruction words. Here on screen is a little list of some of them. I will put a help sheet with these instruction words within this folder on Blackboard. So if you're ever unsure about an essay title or what it's asking you to do, you can always refer back to this document to help you answer the question. So it's things like, analyse, break down the information in constituent parts, examine the relationship between parts and key parts and the question and the information. Argue, put a case forward, or a view, an idea, give evidence to support the claims or the reason for the argument. Basically, you're attempting to influence the reader to accept your view. It might be a compare, look for similarities and differences between perhaps a specific topic, conclude which is preferred or implies evaluation. Contrast, you're going to look at bringing out differences between two items of argument, show whether a differences are significant. Define, give precise meaning, examine different possible or often used definitions of a topic or subject. Some other ones you might see are describe, so descriptive elements, giving a full account of something. Discuss, investigate or examine an argument, debate, give reason for and against, or examine the implications of this topic. Evaluate, it's probably something you'll see quite regularly. Assess and give your judgment about the merit or importance of usefulness of something, or back up your judgment with evidence. I'm not going to go through all of these, I'll just pick out some key ones. Justify, show adequate grounds for decision in particular view or conclusion, answer main objectives likely to be made within that, and so forth. So you've got lots of different kind of types of questions: review, relate, summarise, synthesise. These are all there. This is kind of a resource to help you look back and make sure you understand that question. So now I've gone over actually breaking down an essay, I'd like you to do a little task. So what you're going to use is either using the Berg or Burns and Sinfield approach. For one of the following essay titles below, I'd actually like you to actually break that down and use that Berg or Sinfield approach to actually understand and kind of make an awareness of what that question is asking you to do. So it'll probably only take, a couple of minutes, but it's just kind of a practice tool which is obviously going to help you prepare for your essays that you're going to do in the future.